The Oxfam report, Climate Equality, A Planet for the 99%. As per the recently released Oxfam report titled Climate Equality, A Planet for the 99%, the richest 1% of the global population emitted carbon equivalent to the poorest 66%, leading to 1.3 million heat-related deaths. Climate inequality refers to the unequal distribution of the impacts of climate change, with vulnerable and marginalized communities experiencing disproportionate effects. It includes disparities in exposure to climate-related risks, access to resources for adaptation, and contribution to the greenhouse gas emissions. In 2019, the wealthiest 1% were responsible for 16% of the global carbon emissions, equivalent to emissions from the poorest 66% of our world. Since the 1990s, the top 1% emitted twice the carbon budget of the poorest half. By 2030, emissions are projected to be over 22 times the safe limit for staying below 1.5 degrees Celsius global warming. The emissions of the super-rich 1% in 2019 are estimated to cause 1.3 million deaths due to heat. Annual global emissions by the super-rich 1% cancel out carbon savings for almost 1 million onshore wind turbines. A tax of 60% on the incomes of the super-rich 1% of the world would cut the carbon equivalent of more than the total emissions of the United Kingdom. It can also raise over $6 trillion to fund renewable energy and a transition away from fossil fuels. As extreme weather events cause extensive damage to agriculture, increasing climate inequality can also increase hunger, malnutrition among the poor. This report stated that the countries that are least responsible for global warming, the low-emitting nations, are suffering the worst consequences of the climate crisis. The most vulnerable countries in the world are located in Africa, South Asia, Central and South America, small island developing states, and the Arctic.